Okay. I have 9 o'clock. I will call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, March 8th, 2023 to order. If you would rise and join us in the invocation and pledge, please.
Heavenly Father, we are 30-some days away from Easter weekend. It's in remembrance of what you did for all of us here in the room and all of us who ever were, because you knew our name before anybody else ever did. We thank you for your suffering, for people like us, that particularly me, they're unworthy of your love and incredible kindness. I pray for the individuals in this room, whatever's going on with them privately, that you have the power of the Holy Spirit upon them, and that all the individuals in the room may please get home safely to their family and their travels this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone signed up to speak?
All right, you're gonna make me pronounce your last name again? Oh, I love it. I love it. No, I'm not gonna do it to you. No, I think everybody knows Dusenberry. I just wanted to reiterate that I'm here representing Congressman Minnie, and also that if the Congressman can do anything and just for you to assist Harrison County, he's more than willing to. Also, letter of support for your grant applications. But thank you for allowing us to attend and be part of the process for the citizens of the county and the state. Is there any questions from the commission for me at all? Directives or anything? It was good to see y'all,
Just
as always.
Any money you can throw this way.
Well,
I can't lose an opportunity to say,
the standing joke is everybody expects us to walk in like Publishers Clearinghouse with this big check.
you asked a
Unfortunately,
question. So.
I did. I brought it on myself, but it doesn't work like that. But you know, the Congressman's always wanting to help.
Well, I appreciate that.
Possible. So, and I mean, we're getting a lot of AFG activity now when it comes to AFG grant request. That'll close on, I believe, the 20th. So that's when we're supposed to have our letter support in for that. And also understand you have a firefighter who's in the hospital. I know Phil well from Billington. He's a good man.
Yep, yes.
Thank you for having public servants like that. They're willing to risk their lives for us. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the only one?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak publicly? Anyone on Zoom wish to speak publicly? Hearing none, we will go to the consent agenda. What's the pleasure? Motion to approve consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 3, payroll change notices, A through E. It's a pleasure. Motion to approve 3A through E.
Please.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 4, minutes and or amended minutes of previous meetings, A through E.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve 4A through E as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 5, requisition purchase order invoices A through D. What's the pleasure? Motion to approve 5A through D. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, we have a 9:05. Harrison County, West Virginia Historical Society special funding request. Is there anyone here from the Historical Society? I had some questions.
Basil contacted them all to be here. And she's not-
Okay, it doesn't,
Motion to table.
motion to table the 9:05 appointment. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Review. Number 6, exoneration corrected tickets and joint property application. A through C, 6A through C.
Move to approve A through C.
Motion to approve A through C, number 6. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 7, consideration of approval of a project fund requisition for the payment of costs associated with the project to be financed from proceeds of the Series 2019 bonds issued for the Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District Series 2021 A and B Development District Number 3, White Oaks Project Number 2, and Series 2008A Charles Point Project Number 2, Northland Bay Improvements, and there are 4A through D requisitions.
Move to approve requisitions A through D.
Motion's been made to approve requisitions A through D under 7. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 8, review, discuss, consider GSA update, potential executive session pursuant to 69A4B9 to consider matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, or lease of property, advanced construction planning, the investment of public funds, or other matters involving commercial competition, which, if made public, might adversely affect or other interest of the county. And we have an application and certification for payment of furnishings for the GSA building.
As for the furnishings for the GSA, maintenance has gone over with a list and have inventory. They're about 90% complete, but it looks like everything that is supposed to be there is there at this point in time.
Is this in our other bills that we approved versus separate?
No, sir, this is separate. This will be, actually, the requisition will be down below, but I want to give you an update on that. Also with the GSA, the other updates are, yesterday they started up the generator. It did kick on within the amount of time that it needed to. Today, the fire marshal and the elevator inspector should be there this morning, hopefully passing their certification.
Making progress.
And once that's done, then furniture people can then finish up.
Yes, Miss Linda Dunlap left me a message that as soon as the elevator is done, 2 to 3 days after, they'll be in there finishing up the furniture.
Move to approve requisition number 81 for capital business interiors.
So we're gonna go ahead and combine 8 and 9, or do we want to go ahead?
Yeah, and, yeah.
Okay, under 9.
Two,
Okay,
8 and 9,
okay.
both applications.
Okay, motion's been made to approve requisition, I guess, 9A, number 81, capital business for $412,519.86. What's the pleasure? Oh, any more discussion? Sorry. More discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, number 10, we do not have any. Right?
That's right.
Number 11, review, discuss, consider budget revision for Parks and Recreation Complex.
They have met with their board and they have submitted the following budget revisions. These are all in-house budget revisions between the different line items. A few of them are negative right now, so they'd be changing and putting $9,000 between these different line items and taking it from 459.
What's the pleasure with number 11?
Motion approved, please.
Motion to approve. Is there any discussion? They're just moving money
They're
to
just,
make their line items hold.
that is correct, between their line items.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. I have 9, 10. And we have a public hearing nuisance complaint, Joseph Harry Mason, Good Hope. Is Joseph Harry Mason in the room?
Joseph Harry Mason. Harry Mason.
Which one is that one, Charlotte? This one? Okay.
Mason.
Charlotte, do you want to?
We've had this for quite a while, and it's just gotten worse. He sent us a letter telling us his plan of attack to clean up, and he hasn't done any of it. I'd like to just take this one straight over across the hall today.
Is there anybody in the property?
Yeah,
Are they living, he's living there? Sorry, I just wanted to.
he's living, I think, in the back of it. He's not living in like in the front part where it's falling in,
Okay, I won't say, it. Go ahead. then.
but he does have cars all over the place.
He also doesn't have any running water.
Because in our, I mean, I think
Yeah,
there were cars,
I'll
there was
go
other
make
pictures that
sure.
showed the vehicles in it, right?
Yeah.
It was in, okay.
I'll make sure that he's not living in it.
Well, I mean, I was just
If
asking.
he is, I
I'm
won't
not-
touch it. I will do the cars and all of that.
Well, we need to move on this. Because I noticed that it'd been a while too.
Yeah.
Long River Okay, your turn. What's your motion?
Motion
Take to court?
to move this thing.
Okay. Motion to take to court. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 12, review, discuss, consider request to travel, Peggy Bailey, OEM Director, Canaan Valley Conference Center, SERC Conference from March 28th to March 29th. What's the pleasure?
Motion approved, please.
Motion to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carried. Number 13, review, discuss, consider settlement agreement between and among the state of West Virginia and Walgreens to resolve opioid-related claims. Somebody want to speak to that?
So this is just another one of the settlement agreements that we signed a few of the smaller ones in the past couple of weeks with the different smaller pharmacies. This is just the standard settlement agreement that we've been signing with all of them. This one just happens to deal with Walgreens.
It's the pleasure.
Motion approved for approval.
Then you can fix the
Fix it,
appropriate.
yeah.
Motion to move forward and affix the appropriate signatures. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 14, review, discuss, consider lease agreement between Harrison County Commission and Harrison County Commission Corrections Division.
This is just a lease agreement that Trey and Rachel have drawn up between the county commission and the community corrections that is leasing space there in the GSA on the first floor. This says that they'll pay us $5,000 a month.
And it's retro.
It goes back to September.
I've already put a requisition in for that, and then if the commission's okay, we'll just pay quarterly from that on. rather than-
And
Is that what that says?
Or we can pay a monthly. so it'd
Just
be-
saying.
We'll pay ahead, is what I'm saying.
Well,
It's monthly, the way it's drafted. I don't think we're gonna take it to collection.
I just had this.
We'll pay it at the beginning of the quarter.
Sorry. Okay, what's a pleasure?
motion approved.
And affix. Okay. Motion to approve and affix the appropriate signatures. Any discussion?
Only to Gary, thank you for the way you run corrections. You help a lot of people to
I
get better.
appreciate that. I think we are the only community corrections that actually pays rent to the county.
You pay rent, you buy cruisers, you help people that need people, you have wonderful staff and they work hard and
I
I
appreciate it.
wouldn't want to do what you all do over there. So thank you for doing it for me.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion approved, please.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carried. It is now 9:16 and we have a 9:15 funding request for Operation Firm Handshake. Martin Broderick.
Yeah, hi.
Hello there.
You know, it's hard to believe, we're going into our 5th year. Aiding and assisting veterans and also having our day of recognition where we honor, reunite and feed veterans and their families. 5 years ago when we started, you guys were there from the very beginning, and I want to thank you because our first year, we fed about 250 veterans and their families. Well, last year we fed over 1,000.
Wow. So
So we're growing exponentially, and we couldn't be successful without your help. So we just want to personally thank you. So
well, absolutely, we're gonna approve your $2,000 again and you keep doing what you're doing and maybe next year you'll tell us you helped 1,200 people.
thank you.
Thank you.
So that's your motion to approve the request.
Absolutely.
Any discussion or any questions of Mr. Broderick?
No, man.
Good job.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you for what you do. Number 15, review, discuss, consider status of Harrison County parks.
The only update I have for it is that I believe Trey was going to review, make sure every notation is in the MOU that Mr. McMullen had suggested, and that's about where we're at with it. No major changes have happened to this point.
Is there any questions?
We get any closer to making a decision as far as an agreement?
In terms of the MOU,
Yeah,
the MOU is ready to go. It's just a question of framework. Is that how you all want to proceed with the MOU, without the MOU? And I need an answer. You want to get it signed, we'll have it ready for execution at the next meeting. We have taken the lease off the table. You all have title, you insure the property. We decided that wasn't worth doing.
And they manage their $900,000, which is what they have. And later, if it's 1.2 million, they manage their 1.2 million.
Correct.
I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Trey, will you make sure there's additions or if there anything needs to be added and send it to me and we'll send to the commissioners to review.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. King.
Anything further on 15?
I know I asked a while back, that is it possible to dissolve the board?
The answer is yes. As the enabling entity, you all also have the power to dissolve under West Virginia law. And when you asked that question, I went back and looked at some attorney general opinions, which specifically discuss the dissolution of boards or commissions by county commission. So yes, you clearly have that power if you want to exercise it. The question becomes, how does the dissolution align with the levy funds and what was voted upon by the voters? And you would have to essentially dissolve and create an internal structure which aligns with the levy call to honor the intent of the voters.
That's what I was thinking about.
But it can be done.
I just think we need a plan before we.
So that's the $1 million question. Do you want to go with the MOU, or do you want to look at a different structure entirely?
Okay, well, I think we need to look at both options.
So do we just want to table the MOU?
Please.
Well, okay, you want to make that motion? He has a motion on, you had a motion to approve? Do you want to rescind your motion or
I
we
didn't know
table?
that we were thinking of anything else, so, y'all do whatever you want to do right now.
Now, Madam President, we do have on the table items our agreement with Harrison County Parks and Rec Commission that is under table items.
It is.
So we can just leave it be, and that was pretty much just an update.
So that works.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's all right. Okay, 9:20, public hearing nuisance complaint, Joseph and Scarlett Bishop of Wallace. Do we have Joseph and Scarlett Bishop?
No, they're not here. Mr. Bishop had a doctor's appointment for a surgery. He did tell me the other day, that one's in Wallace. It's right along Trout Point. He did tell me the other day that he has barn savers coming to take the barn apart and stain the wood. And he has another guy, Ray White, you all might know him. He's the guy on the corner in Bridgeport at the old car wash.
But it
he's
looked
gonna
better
come
the other
and
day
do
when
that.
I was by
It's
there. It looks
getting
much better, much
It's-
better.
It's getting better.
We just keep it that way.
We stay on them constant.
Thank you.
As long as you keep that truck so that people could see turning right, that's what
Yeah.
matters to me, because it was blocked and literally you were guessing.
Right,
Okay.
right. But he says that all of it should be done within 60 days.
Okay.
Motion to giving 60 days, if not, turn it over to legal.
I agree.
Okay, motion to give Mr. and, yeah, well, I should say Joseph and Scarlett Bishop 60 days. And if not, if it's not completed by then, to turn over, take it to court,
Yes,
correct? Okay. Any further discussion?
And Mr. Mason does live in that house, so I won't touch it.
But you'll get him to clean up.
Yes.
All in favor of the motion for the Bishop property?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Now we go to number 16. Review, discuss, consider acquisition of approximately 55.04 acres more or less related to the Harrison County Rail Trail System. Potential executive session pursuant to 69A4B9 attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, or lease of property, advanced construction planning, the investment of public funds, or other matters involving commercial competition, which, if made public, might adversely affect the financial or other interests of the state or any political subdivision. It's a pleasure.
Motion approved.
What do we approve? We haven't heard anything. We need to hear a little bit more on this.
motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Well, you're welcome. It was as much for me as it was for anybody else. I did too, several times.
Carry on.
I'm gonna make a motion. Motion to come back out of executive session.
A motion's been made to come out of executive session, go into regular session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's the pleasure on number 16? Yeah.
Motion to table to the next meeting for staff to work out all the details of the contract.
The motion's been made to table number 16 until the staff can work out some details on the contract. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Now, are we moving somebody?
Skip payment is for 945. He wants to talk about the White Oak bond. They asked
Well, it
if they
is
could-
9:46. Okay, is there another one?
And that would be in reference to agenda items 23 and 24.
Okay, if they're in a hurry, let's. Do we have something else? Who, Shinnston? 2,000. No. Was it? Is somebody here from Shinnston? Is anybody here from Shinnston Soccer Association?
I spoke with Mark this morning. He was unable to make it.
Move to approve the $1,000 request.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the Shinnston Soccer Association special funding request of $1,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I figure 9:30.
Yes.
It's been requested that we move, well, it's already passed. I don't know, is Summit Park here?
Yes.
Would you mind if we move somebody in front of you? You're okay with that? Okay. We'd like to move on to 9:45, and along with that, I believe is item 23 on the agenda, correct?
23 and 24.
Okay,
to be in
23 and
reference to-
24. Is that what we need to do, Mr. Amon? Is that what?
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner,
You're welcome.
and thank you. So Tom Amon, Steptoe and Johnson represent the commission on the White Oaks TIF. So there's a couple of things on the agenda, but the genesis of it is High-Tech Corridor Development, which is the developer of record for the TIF district. And right now, we're just talking about the business park. So west of 79. And there's additional investments being made by High Tech in that district. There is a subordinate bond that the county commission issued in 21B bonds that is held by High Tech. And that allows them to, as they incur costs in that district, to requisition those into the bonds. And then as there's increment down the road that's created by more private development, then bond payments can be made and they can get reimbursed for those costs. So there was a minimal amount that was requisitioned to those bonds in 21 when we closed, and there hasn't been additional amounts. So with the additional improvements that are being made, it's right in line with the purpose of those bonds. However, they're going to make an amount that's in excess that was previously available. And so they'd like to increase those bonds to capture the additional costs. So in line with that, we have a reimbursement resolution that's up for consideration that basically says that the county agrees that costs relating to this project that would be incurred by the developer, once the bonds are increased, that they could requisition those costs into the bonds and capture those costs. And then an engagement letter for Steptoe to provide the bond counsel services relating to this. And again, this all relates to amending the existing bond documents, including the bond, to increase the principal amount to allow them to capture these additional costs. As far as amounts, the original bond was $4,195,000. They requisitioned approximately $245,000 at closing, which leaves them with about $3.9 million in additional that could be requisitioned to cover these costs that we're talking about. They have, I think, today submitted a requisition for consideration. There's work ongoing out there right now to cover those costs that have been incurred and paid relating to that work. And That's not requiring any change to what's in place. That just involves approving that requisition. These other items relate to something separate and apart to increase the amount for additional future costs that would be incurred relating to improvements. So that's what's under consideration. Also, just a side note, not related to this at all, since I'm here, just an update. There is a bill in the, that is passed at the legislature that would allow for changes in TIF districts that would give the county, in this case, the option to extend the life of TIF districts, existing districts that had bonds outstanding at the end of 2020 by up to 15 years. Any municipality, county can take advantage of that. And so I think that will be advantageous for a number of clients around the state because it's one of the principal tools that we have to help facilitate development. Happy to try to answer any questions. We have Mr. Woody Thrasher here from the development group. If you have any questions related to what he has in mind as far as additional investment or cost to be incurred or what's going on out there, he would be happy to try to address anything in that regard. We're just here to try to help with any questions or anything that you might have.
Did you want to say something?
Would it be okay if I did?
Sure. I don't have.
So just a little bit of recap. White Oaks was approved for a TIF bond, I guess in 2008 or so. We came in and we did all the infrastructure on the park. We spent about $35 million. It was about 15 million in a TIF bond. And we opened our doors in 2009. The intent of this TIF legislation is to facilitate economic development. And I think if you look at White Oaks, we kept the bond issuance to a very minimum. And we bought the bonds ourselves, which means we took all the risk. Fortunately, and I think it's a really good reflection of several things. One, I think it's a reflection of a really cooperative effort on the part of government and private developers, both County Commission, who has been a great partner from day one, as well as the city of Bridgeport, and then us doing the private part. So that's been one key element of, everybody getting along and success. And then secondly, I think it really speaks to the diversity of the economy within North Central West Virginia, because of this Marcellus Shale and a variety of other things, that park has a wide use of people in it. Now, I think it's important to talk about what kind of performance have they had. So within 10 years of the opening of the park, those bonds were fully funded. I don't think there's another TIF district in the state that funded their bonds that quickly. Additionally, we kept the bond issuance to a minimum and we did it. And so that's the public investment. There are over 2,000 jobs at White Oaks. If you look at the investment per job created, I would be confident that it's the lowest public investment per job of any TIF district in the state. So it's been really successful. We want to continue to do those sorts of activities, and we do see opportunities, and we don't ever want to take big bites of things. We like to take small incremental steps and do those and then go to the next one. So that's what this is reflective of. As you know, you can see the construction taking place now. We're moving some dirt. We're going to create a 13.7 acre pad, which Jenkins Motors is going to occupy to put in new Subaru and Hyundai dealerships. Also going to facilitate 7 acres on top for taking the dirt from the top, putting it on the bottom and building that pad. And that will create another 7 acres on top for other economic development. A little bit of creativity is required because White Oaks was a business park. The idea that Jack Healy and I had was to create a business park in our hometown where businesses could locate, hold on to jobs, create economic development. As you can imagine, the demand for office buildings today is not what it was before the pandemic. So while we've developed the vast majority of White Oaks, there are certain pockets that we think are still for economic development, and we may want to modify what we put on those sorts of things in order to sort of fully develop that. But that's what we've done, and that's our plan of action, and I got a pretty map if anybody wants to see. Any questions?
Probably one of the news media will probably ask you for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say anything else? Does anybody else have any questions or have any questions of either of the gentlemen?
Got lots of questions for Tom, but this isn't the setting for it
Okay.
on TIF. So I make a motion to engage Steptoe & Johnson for bonding this project being the lead counsel.
And to increase.
That's a separate one.
So this is number 23.
23.
That is correct.
Okay, motion's been made to engage Steptoe & Johnson regarding the revenue bonds at White Oaks. Did I say that correctly? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we have number 24. Which,
And again, this is the reimbursement resolution to allow these additional costs that Mr. Thrasher had discussed to be captured in the bonds once they're amended to increase the amount.
what's the pleasure? 124.
Motion increase as stated by Mr. Hammond.
Motion to increase as stated by Mr. Tom Amon. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
The only other thing, I wasn't, or is there a requisition on the project fund for the 21B bonds?
Developer reimbursement, it was for $458,968.
So that
That was
We've already approved
that
that.
was approved. Okay, very good. Okay,
Already.
excellent. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the schedule.
Well, thanks, Summit Park. Okay, 9:30 Summit Park Public Service District Special Funding Request, Ryan Halls. Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time, Commissioners. We've got a long agenda today. I'll try to keep it brief. Here with, again, Ryan Hall, the Civil Environmental Consultants here in Summit Park, for a request for funding. This funding request would fund, the PSD has self-funded portions of the study already. They've looked at parts of their system. The funding request that is before you today is to finish studying the rest of their system and come up with a plan of action, really come up with a project that they can take to the state for funding purposes and improve their system. The improvements that they are proposing that we know of currently and that we're hoping to evaluate and determine would reduce their inflow and infiltration, which is unexpected and unanticipated flow from stormwater, from illegal drains, various sources that are not supposed to be in the sewer system. That helps them on their O&M side. That reduces their overflows and their surcharges from their manholes. They've got one in particular right now that overflows during storm events into a residential area and into a stream, adjacent to a stream. So they've got some ideas currently of what needs to be done, but the idea is to reduce that flow, which ultimately gets pumped to Clarksburg. So these improvements by doing this project will reduce the O&M that is experienced by the Clarksburg Sanitary Board as well. Again, they've self-funded a portion of this study. They've taken care of some emergency funding projects on their end. So they're trying to be fiscally responsible. They're funding their reserve accounts so that they have money to pay for emergencies that come up. I believe this is the first time that they've come before the commission for funding in 15 or so years of the PSD. Any funding that's provided by the county would allow them to continue to study, go to the state, and could be considered a local match as well for a larger project. Any questions?
mean, have you discussed any of this with Clarksburg? I mean, as far as any water, sewer, with the water board or with Clarksburg regarding,
We need to discuss with Clarksburg. I'm not following your question.
well, my question is, it's a lot of money for Summit Park. How many customers do you have?
We're outside the city limits.
I understand that. I understand. I mean, have you ever considered letting somebody else come in and take a look at what you have?
Are you recommending consolidation?
Yes,
Because
yes, I am. I'm speaking for
we
myself.
are fiscally responsible and our board decided that they want to continue at this point in time serving the community of Center Park. And that's not on the table as a question. These upgrades are just timely upgrades since our system was put in back in the 90s. And we are looking at two projects, a water project and a sewer project. And we are just in the process now looking at every funding option available so that we can continue providing for our community.
I mean, I'm just asking. I'm not saying, but
Maybe worth noting that even if that were to happen, Clarksburg would have to do these same types of upgrades.
I
to their
understand.
system. So we're just trying to be proactive and really evaluate their system and improve their system and their, it's the maintenance cost and the functioning for the residents as well. Ultimately, it does help downstream because they're pumping less water to Clarksburg. And we have not discussed that specifically with them, but I don't see them being opposed to less flow coming their way. They end up, the more stormwater they enter the system, the more their system is taxed during storm events.
So this money's for engineering.
Yes, field work, field investigation, we evaluate the rest of their system, find out where the flow is coming from, remove illegal drains, determine any deficiencies in the lift stations. Again, the idea is to remove as much stormwater as possible, and then if needed, upgrade the lift stations so they're capable of pumping the necessary flow on down the line.
And 1.6 million you go out to the state for grant,
Yes.
federal.
Again, this funding here can be considered a local match, so even if it wasn't provided and they were able to find a way to fund this study portion, at some point, depending on the funding source, they may have to come back and say, hey, we don't have the funds for the local match. And they have their reserve accounts that they're funding as required. So they're trying to be fiscally responsible. They're paying their bills, they're funding their reserve accounts. This is just a small capital investment to get them where they can submit to the state for a project, and they'll end up paying for that over time as well, and the residents will. But the idea is a small donation, if you will, or grant from the county to expedite that process and allow them to get to that point.
I'm not ready to make a decision on this today from personally, but what's the pleasure?
They were not included in the original ARPA funds.
That is correct.
And all that money's been pledged.
Yes, that's correct.
We had some PSTs that agreed to share and split some of that funding when it went to one, correct?
There was an agreement between like Greater Harrison, Sons, Hadley, and one other one, that all that money is still allocated for. If that's what you're referencing.
It seemed to me that the amount of money we've given Greater Harrison, we should probably see if they'd be willing to surrender 100,000 and to get it over to Summit Park.
What happens when you get this part of this project done? What is gonna be needed additionally?
Once this study is done and the report, what we will do is develop a preliminary engineering report, and that will be then submitted to IJDC down at the state. And the funding request will be put in, the funding package will be developed to fund the
So there's
project.
gonna be more funding that's gonna be needed to further this project,
Not necessarily from the county, for the overall project, yes. This is just the study
but
phase.
you think you can get all that through grants?
I don't know about all through grant, but we think we can get a portion of it through
Where are you
grant.
gonna come up with the rest of
That would be something that they would include in their rate increases, and they would pay that with bonds over time.
Like Greater Harrison on the Quiet Dells, saying they're gonna borrow $7 million, 1% for 40 years, they could do the same thing.
It's tough to get fully grant funded projects anymore. There are some out there, but a lot of
it? I'm
them.
just trying to
Oh,
educate
no,
myself on it.
And it's tough for small PSDs to get grants.
It is,
And
and I think, I know in the past, I've heard we want PSDs to come together.
Yeah.
And,
And it's because of the citizen. It's not because
yeah,
we're
exactly,
trying to
exactly.
make sure PSD.
Not trying to
We
take
know we're
over.
stronger with Clarksburg because of numbers. And then the key to that, what we've done is like in Pepsi-Ball, nobody lost their job. You know, we just been merged into Clarksburg. We don't want to lose jobs, but we also want to focus on the customer. Because basically money that's available to Summit Park connected to Clarksburg is absolutely greater. And a better opportunity to get, less of an opportunity to be turned down.
I think in this situation, I think some of the parks demonstrated fiscal responsibility, said they're,
I'm not saying that I'm.
oh, I know, I'm not.
I'm saying their water and the customer is my concern. And the water and the customer has a better chance of getting more dollars.
But we're still
tied
having
to somebody's
issues that
bill.
we have
Right.
to fix.
As it, if I might add, that Parksburg is, of course, going through their lead and copper issue.
Yeah.
And their funding is being generated towards that goal. And all the monies they are pursuing right now.
Could you identify yourself?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mary Seymour, Summit Park PSD General
Okay.
Manager.
Sorry, I just had.
I might add that with that being a focus with Clarksburg, if we merged with Clarksburg, we would not have any focus. And it is my goal that we would, at some point, if the choice comes to merge, that we would be able to give a fully updated system to whomever, rather than a depleted system that's in need.
But have you had that
But then-
conversation with them? Would they be
We have
willing?
had some conversations with Clarksburg Water, and of course, it is again our board's decision, and at this point, they still want to be in the game, obviously. And the
So
community,
doesn't everybody else. It's,
yes, yeah, and of course. the
what is it? Somebody
community-
says Letterman jacket. That's. yeah.
And of course, the community is happy with having a local office presence, and we're very responsive. We have our technician lives in the system, so he can be with any customer within 5 minutes. And they won't have that benefit through Clarksburg.
That's not true. They're 100% going to be tied to Clarksburg. and
And they
100%.
will be tied, yes,
And
but
they
they will be
100% would
on,
have local, it's 2.5 miles down the road.
but may I add, in the middle of the night, my technician can be there to turn water off when there's a leak.
In the
or
middle of the night,
customer.
Clarksburg can be too.
They can be, but the time delay, and also if a person wants to have service turned on, we follow them home and turn it on, whereas Clarksburg might have a service order process that may take several days. And we're very responsive to our customers as it is right now.
But you understand our point. You cannot get the means that Clarksburg can if you're tied to them for your customers. And that's who we have to be concerned about. I appreciate your board. I appreciate you. But Summit Park, much like Glidedale, not like Hepzibah, much like Eastview, eventually has to be tied to something bigger because the federal government and the state government is not giving PSDs with 400 customers a whole bunch of money. They're giving a whole bunch of money to big PSDs like Greater Harrison.
And believe me, Summit Park holds a big,
And Summit
in
Park
my
is
heart,
different.
but
Yeah,
I have to
we're
do-
Clarksburg people, so.
Well, and will add that our water loans will be paid off in the next under 5 years. So we were hoping that perhaps by the time we're ready for that project to go forth on the water side, that we will just be done with one loan and moving to another. And that should not have any rate shock at all. In the sewer, the work that we're wanting to do is not in the millions per se. When we get to the project, we have 2 lift stations that need some attention, and those are very high dollar items. And with that being said, our loans would probably still be minimal to the customer
And
impact.
again, it's nothing against you.
No, I
We have to
understand that.
focus on the customer,
Yes.
and it's the customer that we have to focus on, and the customer can get more bang for their buck if you're tied to a bigger entity. Simple as that. I didn't make the rules. I just know what's
I understand.
happening. We all know what's happening. I'll give you as much money as you want when it comes to the $100,000, but you have to be tied to Buckford to get the rest of the money later anyway. Whether you like it or not, it's the way it is. And I don't think I'm saying anything that's untrue. I know I'm not.
That's quite understandable.
So,
And
and we're
we
not
understand
asking
that
you to
we are
lose your
small.
job. We're not asking your service tech to lose his job. We're asking you to become part of something bigger for the customer.
Are you, Commissioner, expressing concern about their ability to get funding for an overall project?
Without a doubt.
Well,
Don't be
there's,
confused.
there's a lot of money at the state, and we're confident they can get the funding for their system, and they've shown that they can pay their bills. I know you guys are, as a commissioner, looking at the overall picture. We're not concerned with their ability to be able to get funding. Will it be full grant funding? Probably not, but they have current bonds out now that they're paying for, and they're doing fine paying for those.
Without a doubt, you are right. And without a doubt, I know I'm right. The small PSPs are going away and will be non-existent eventually because of the way the rules are in Charleston as well as in DC. So. It's not picking on Summer Park, it's actually helping.
So what are we gonna do here? What's the,
We have a funding request. As I understand it. And I'm not sure Commissioner Treecost said he wanted to fund it or not to fund it.
I do want to fund it, David, absolutely. I just want to make sure that they understand that becoming part of Clarksburg is part of the option, is part of the deal.
You know, and I think since you've been on, that's been one of mine, is to get as many of the PSDs combined, and it seems to be a very slow process. And if the history of the other ones is anything, this could be another 4 or 5 years, and this seems to be something that they could get to work on.
And take it back to your board that over a 4-year period is what we're talking about. We'll give you the money, but we want to merge it over a 4-year period. I agree with David on that too. It does take forever.
My question to you all is, if we give you half of that this physical year, half the next physical year, do you need the full 100 right now?
I think that we can make that work. That gets us started on a portion of it. We can hold some funds or some invoices until the next fiscal year. We can make that work.
How do you feel about that, Susan? I still
I
think
just think we're putting a Band-Aid on something.
we're putting Band-Aids all over.
You either want them to
Yeah.
consolidate or you don't. I mean, and I don't want to force anybody to, but
No.
sometimes,
So the decision has to be made for the customer. I mean, what's best for the customer?
and again, like I said, I hate. Make a motion.
I'll make
I mean, I hear
Well, I mean-
illegal. Whatever was illegal. I don't want to say dumping, that's not the word,
Flood
but
drains and.
yeah, I mean, and that's not the only place it's going on. But that, when that antennas go up, when I hear stuff like that and see stuff like that. And I know it goes on everywhere, but I would like to see it. I mean, I don't know that going with Clarksburg would help that. But if it would, I would like to see that happen. So that stuff is not going into our streams and rivers.
Patsy, how would you feel if Greater Harrison surrendered 100 of its 8 million over to this project?
Well, the entity that has the most money in the county is the airport. Why don't we take 100,000 from them? They just got $80 million. So why don't we just go ahead and we'll see if we can come to a compromise and agree with Summit Park that over the next 5 years, they merge with Clarksburg and we give them $100,000 now.
I would like to
I'll
provide.
get to my board.
Yeah, take that to your board. Let them ask them. Clarksburg's willing, Harrison County Commission is absolutely willing to help you. We know you need help. One of the most important things to us is water, road, sewer, fiber optic cable, electric, gas, infrastructure, and then we would absolutely. We don't want a hostile takeover. We're not looking for that. We're looking for a merger that's going to happen eventually anyway. And if we could do it over a 5-year period, believe me, it takes 5 years. That, you know, that we could do something good now and prepare for something even better later. Okay, so can you do that? Take it to your board and come back to us
Yes.
and tell them that we agree, that we know we want to help you. We'll find the money from somewhere and that we know that for you, and I'm gonna say it again, each you, it's coming. Coming, guy.
Or, I just want to say, and as for this amount, there are 2 options here at the county level. It would have to come out of community improvement or the revolving loan fund that we have established.
I just hope you understand where I'm coming from.
I do.
I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm really thinking of you. So I don't want you to think I'm going after your job. I'm not.
No, I am not concerned about my job. I am ready to retire today.
Well, don't retire for 5 years because this is a terrible process that we need your expertise on. But I'm saying if your board understands what I understand, which they do understand. You know, we started Hexaball when I came onto the commission and like Commissioner Hinkle said, it's a process.
Yes.
Okay, so can you come back to us and let us know if they would consider that?
Yes.
And make it clear how friendly we're being, that we're not being mean. But the inevitable may be here today, and then he can get his money to proceed with what he needed. And then because the merger has started, and we can work together like we did, guess what starts happening? And like it did Hexagon. Because they were losing water. Crazy. No, no.
I'm fine with that, but the other issue is you gotta get Clarksburg agreement.
I don't think they'll be there.
They're one that looked at it.
So have to go through a study process to make sure that they're the best qualified provider to take over, which they probably are, but it's a bigger process.
Yeah, we could work with Mr. Myers to gain the meeting or then come here.
When you got the Clarksburg sewers, that's a different entity. That's the problem.
Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and cover 50,000. So you guys can get started and get going.
And then come back.
Next fiscal year, we'll look at it.
So the motion is made to give Summit Park PSD $50,000 from
Community improvement.
Community Improvement Fund. And then they can look at it again in the next fiscal year. Is that correct? They can come
Yes,
back
ma'am.
and work towards a merger, or talk to Clarksburg or somebody. Is that fair enough? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Thank you. and I hope you understand.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, number 17, I believe, review, discuss, consider access to and remediation letter agreement between Harrison County Commission and Evelyn R. Swiger, Robin Creighton, and Archie Creighton individuals.
Evelyn Swiger, first, this house is right there in Loveberry, like as soon as you turn onto Mount Fair Road. On the right, there's 3 houses right there.
Yes, I know exactly.
Okay, the middle one, had caught on fire, and they had no insurance. The sister is disabled, so she has to have her sister sign for it. And it's just Evelyn taking care of 2 of them. And they don't really have the money, they don't have like the funds right away to pay for this. And they wanted to just let us go ahead and tear it down and be able to put a home on that property.
Do you have an amount on what is going to take?
I do not know yet. We do have sufficient funds in the nuisance line item to take care of this property.
Big house, is it? Charlotte?
It's 2-story. It's right.
Is it the green, is it green? Is it the green one? Or so, I mean, I probably. have
It's
pictures on my
either green or
phone.
blue.
Okay,
It'll be expensive to tear down. It's gonna be hard to mobilize just based on where the house sits.
because it's right by the trail.
Yes.
Yeah, they, whoever does it's gonna have to access the trail to get to it. And we've done that before for another house down in that area, and the trail was okay.
I don't have to access any bridges.
No, no,
It's
they just
right
have to come
as
to
soon as
the
you
tunnel.
go on.
We make them, whoever we hire, in an agreement to put the trail back the way it was.
Absolutely.
Move to approve the access remediation letter agreement for President to fix your signature.
Motion to approve the remediation letter agreement and a fixed signature concerning Swire, Creighton, and Creighton. Just want to add that to make sure we got it wrong.
Not a problem.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 18, review, discuss, consider a resolution authorizing the submission of a proposal to Senator Joe Manchin's office to be considered for funding from the congressionally directed spending for a recreational lifestyle and economic improvement project. Actually, we have two, one to Manchin and one to Capito, number 18 and 19.
Move to approve 18 and 19,
Move to approve 18 and 19. Any further discussion?
and for the president to fix her signature.
And for the president to affix the signature added to that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 20, review, discuss, consider request to travel Heather Mick. And I'm going to add, and Lorinda, I'm going to add 2021. Is that okay? Because they're both going to the same place. Heather Mick and Lorinda Russell for Incident Tactical Dispatch class in Sutton, March 20th through the 23rd.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve 20 and 21.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'm just glad to see that these dispatches are getting some training,
I'm also trying to get one or two more to go. I believe there's a waiting list right
because I
now.
know that's something that I. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Review, discuss, number 22, review, discuss, consider pursuing option agreement and related infrastructure with Wolf Summit Energy LLC, which is necessary for the pursuit, permitting, and initiation of an energy project in Harrison County.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chris Callis. I'm with Jackson Kelly in Charleston, West Virginia. I'm happy to be here today to represent before you Wolf Summit Energy LLC, which is a subsidiary of GE. This relates to a power generation project, a gas project. I know the Commission has probably waited patiently to develop over the last several years. This relates to a project that initially was developed by an entity called ESC Harrison Power. It turns out that GE has been an investor in the project effectively over a long period of time. It was a senior creditor now, and it's preparing to step in and try to develop the project going forward. Give it some new life. It's in the process of renewing a number of permits and agreements that have been lapsed or expired, and really that's the main reason we're here before you today. The Commission may recall that the plan for securing the property on which most of the project is to be constructed, is to have that conveyed by the Development Authority, Harrison County Development Authority, to what would now be Wolf Summit Energy. And then there would be a sale and leaseback transaction for purposes of property tax control that would go into place. That property is held now by the county commission. So in order to achieve site control and to facilitate some other development efforts that we expect to go on through the remainder of this year, we need a couple things from the county commission. A number, and a lot of these things are essentially things that were planned to be done several years ago and just never happened. The first of those, and these are all reflected in a written resolution that I've shared with Mr. Zimmerman and his piece 2 days ago. I wasn't sure whether that was something that was before you or not, but this piece is passing it out. There are three things we'd like to accomplish. The first is an authorization by the county commission to authorize its president to execute a deed or deeds as the county commission and the development authority approve to get the property to the development authority. The second would be to recommend to the development authority that it enter into a site option, essentially renew an existing and expired site option in between the development authority and what would now be Wolf Summit, previously was ESC Harrison, essentially putting it in the same position and under the same terms that were present previously. A third and more minor, but still important thing in the resolution that you'll see is a restatement of this commission's support for the project and its development. It had after a number of the agreements and the county commission's involvement in the mid 2010s, 15, 16, there was a February 2018 resolution of the county commission expressing support for the project. We thought this was a great opportunity to have the county commission restate that support if it's willing to do so. So all three of these items are included in the written resolution that we've prepared for you. We're hoping that you would be willing to consider and adopt it, and we would then work with Mr. Zimmerman on the deed that I mentioned, work with the development authority on getting the site option put back in place, and we'll proceed with the development of the project. Happy to answer any questions here.
I'm just excited to see this come back.
Ray, have you reviewed this?
That's just,
And so I have reviewed it. I did want you all to review it, and I want it to be on the agenda next week to, pardon me, 2 weeks from now to review and approve or disapprove of it. My questions related to how you want the transaction structured. Historically, it was structured through the HCDA because of funding, specifically a road grant, I believe, was in place. I don't know if it's no longer in place. And I wanted to make sure that you all understood that because the county commission actually is the owner of the property. I've spoken with Mr. Callis and Laura and several other individuals about it. It's a great thing for the county. It's just, how do you all want it? Do you want the structure to maintain its historic status, or do you want to change it going forward because you all are actually the owner of the property? Differently, do you want the development authority to take the lead here, or do you all want to directly take the lead as the commission? And do we have to do it one way or the other because of the funding? Because we need to reapply for the road grant, because those are annual, correct? And I don't know if the county commission has standing to do that, or doesn't.
I'm seeing no.
Yeah, well, we've done them through the development authority before. But those were my concerns when I went through it. Certainly, it's a great thing for the community.
It's absolutely.
Yeah. It's up to you all about structure.
I'd like to have a work session, Susan, to go over all the things. I don't know how much you all know about the past agreements and where things got left.
Well, I don't care about the past. I mean, I think we move on. I mean, it's not that I don't care. I shouldn't say it like that. But I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know what
as long as
session.
legally we can move forward. That's,
And as far as I'm concerned, go ahead and put it under the development authority. No other municipality is gonna care about that piece of property, certain ones.
It is in our approach, and maybe this is an important fact for you. We have seen, looking at the various efforts of the county commission, the development authority, the developer, its council, back several years ago, that a lot of effort and thinking was put into the development of this project, including the road grants that's been discussed. We are trying to make use of as much of that thinking and to not reinvent the wheel, if you will, on as much of that as we can. It may be possible to eliminate the role of development authority here, but I think it was, considered to be important at that time, and that's why we proposed simply to re-execute what we had before.
I agree. Okay, motion.
Motion to table and set a work session up next week.
Motion to move forward, have our county attorney bring us an agenda item for the following meeting 2 Wednesdays from now, please.
okay. Motion to table and have a work session.
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion to bring back to an agenda in 2 weeks.
I'm not sure how you guys expect Trey to do this without having a work session. I'm just, your attorney
Why
just
can't we
told you.
talk about it right here?
Okay, well, let's talk about how much money we think we ought to get, how much money we've already spent. We're gonna try to get it. We're not gonna talk about some other people that probably took a beating in the last deal. So where do you want to start the talk? You know how much money that they're willing to pay for the property?
So there's just a couple of things I need to understand.
When we get
And
in
that's
this,
fine. I mean,
One is
that's,
who's gonna represent the development authority. If we're gonna get in the situation where we're gonna do it that way. The development authority has at times utilized its own legal representation. And that lawyer is gonna have to deal with the option contract with Mr. Callis and Jackson Kelly and the developer of the project. It kind of blends the role when put me in the position of doing both. I mean, we can work to get it done. I'd like to talk to Grants about what we need to do on the road grant side and how that should be structured. That should probably go through the development authority, but that's not something that's gonna take weeks to do. Right?
well, my question to the developer is $500,000 will make a difference on this project for a road grant? When we have other businesses in the county that could be interested, they're smaller.
We'd be able to speak to that this time. I'll certainly take that back.
I mean, that's all I'm looking at is that we went down the road, tied up $750,000 and 20% of the county's match for 5 years, 4 years, wasn't it, Chad? And so we had set money aside. And so, again, I just think that there's a lot of things that need discussed and make sure that the last time it took over probably 5 or 6 months to get to where we are. And today we're talking about doing it in 10 minutes. That's all.
Have the permits been transferred into Wolf Summit?
We are in the process of doing that this year.
So it hasn't officially been done yet. I'd say we take 2 weeks and work on some of this stuff. If the permits haven't officially transferred, we work with the developer, 100% support for the project, but let's look at what the soft costs are gonna be for you all, what was done historically. I mean, I have all the information. I've got the old files from all the agreements. Let me get them compiled and get them to all the commissioners that way you have a complete set. And then we move it forward.
And Mr. Train, would it be better for you then to come back the 5th of April instead of, it gives you a month?
I think I can have it together 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
If it's gonna be an issue.
You go with that, sir?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, I didn't know anything about this till Monday either. That's just, this is a big decision. It's a big decision for you all to make sure we do it right and that it happens this time. That's,
I don't disagree.
we really worked hard with the last group. This commission spent a lot of hours, there was a lot of money and time spent by a lot of people. I can see some heads nodding back there, and we just want to make sure, Curtis, you were involved with all of it. We spent a lot of time in that back room trying to iron all this out, and I want this time to make sure we succeed before we go as far as we went last time, and then it failed. So. But that's all right with you.
It is, we appreciate the support, and we appreciate the concern that, going forward, we do it in a way that is, feasible, going to work and going to accommodate all the county's concerns. So yes, we're absolutely letting them
This is
back,
going to excite a lot of people,
hopefully.
so.
It's a development that's, as if anybody's been following the legislature knows, getting a gas plant with all the gas resources we have here is very important for the state.
We appreciate you giving this second opportunity.
Now, the motion was to table,
For 2 weeks.
to come back in 2 weeks. Now, I'm gonna ask the.
Let's make the motion. Let's make the motion to bring this back in 2 weeks, but to authorize staff to start to internally work on moving the project forward.
There you go, get everything answered, get all the questions taken care of.
And to communicate with grants and development
Exactly.
authority and everybody to look at it.
And to have a work session before he comes back. We do that.
I'm just perplexed that all these work sessions we want to have now, and we only meet every other month, every other week. And then we want to fill in, and the motion was made to meet every other week. Now we want to have works, and I'm not opposed. I'm okay. I can have a work session. Do you want to have a work session next week? Let's have a work session next week. Which we probably need to talk about the budget anyway. So I'm okay with putting this on a work session next week. I don't have a problem. I can be here. If that makes you happy, Mr. Hinkle, I'm tickled to death to make you happy. So, we can schedule a work session next week to discuss this along with other things. But the motion is to come back in 2 weeks, work together with staff. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you very much. Sorry. Listen to me rant and go on, but this is frustrating. Okay. Number 25, administrators report.
I already gave the update about the GSA, that's the latest things happening over there. We have our budget work session this afternoon. The elected officials will start at 1 o'clock. Going over their budgets and why they requested different things. I had a very productive, I felt, mayor, city manager meeting last week. Invited every jurisdiction, municipality here in the county. We had a good turnout for being the very first meeting. I think we got a lot accomplished. I think there was a lot of good communication going back and forth. And I definitely look forward to having those type of meetings again in the future. It was very beneficial for everyone. Hopefully other municipalities will have the option to attend. That's it for right now.
Commissioner Treecost, any comments? No, Madam President. Mr. Hinkle?
Just updates, next week, Pierpont Community College will have 3 prospective, school presidents in on the 14th and 15th. We hope to have a new president picked the following week. Very excited to make that step. Also Pierpont, things are going along well with the plans for the new A&P school. we're talking potentially begin building in the fall. And will be a groundbreaking on April the 6th. At the airport, both senators should be there for that groundbreaking on the terminal. It's at 11 o'clock.
I've said my piece, so.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.